Hey my lovelies, I'm here with Zizi the cat to introduce you to the cast of Soul Dominion books 1, 2, 3. Soul Dominion was the first ever series I wrote. It's classed as an urban fantasy romance, so like a contemporary romantasy set in our world but with a magical world that's hidden from everything else. It spans 3 books. It's a traditional trilogy following the adventures of Erica Shylock as she discovers there is more to her than she realised and more to the world than she realised. It spans 3 books, with book 1 being Keys of Time, book 2 being Keys of Fate, and book 3 being Keys of Death. It is a completed story with a trilogy, although I do have series planned for the future which follow the same characters but with different stories and different problems to solve. On the 25th of July this year, I'm going to be going to Wonderland, a book fair in Nottinghamshire. It's my first ever in-person event, so excited and nervous and everything in between. And I had a question from Dot about the characters, so I thought to do a little video introducing the series and its main key characters that you can expect to meet. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my cast. The main protagonist is a 19-year-old, almost 20-year-old girl called Erica Shylock, but she wasn't actually the first character that popped into my head. Well, walked into my head. So I'm going to start with the first character that ever walked into my head. And I'm going to give you a bit of a story about how he walked into my head as well. So I used to study at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London, and I was doing an MA in Chinese translation. No, it never led to any career in translation, but I studied it nonetheless. And during my year there, I was very fortunate to get some really cheap digs in Earls Court area, so not far from High Street Kensington. So I used to walk from my digs to the tube station of High Street Kensington, and it features in my story because it was the first time I was living in London. I was really besotted and overwhelmed with the whole grandeur of the area I was living. I couldn't believe I got to walk these streets every day just to get the tube. There was lots of Art Deco buildings, lots of Georgian buildings, lots of Victorian buildings, Queen Anne styles. The architecture was phenomenal. So it really awakened my creative side because I've always been creative. I started out wanting to be a manga artist thanks to Hayao Miyazaki of Studio Ghibli. Never went that far because I was never satisfied with the level of my drawing. So I ended up turning to writing because I found it a lot easier to put down in words the stories that I had in my head. So on my way to the tube station every day, I would walk past this house, and it's basically a house with no front door. And the neighbouring house had obviously bought it and extended into it and bricked up the old front door. But in my head, it existed for a magical person who could make it look like it was not there, just a normal bricked up door house, but actually it would then reveal itself to be a dwelling. And out of my imagination popped a character who obviously didn't have a full name at that point, but I wanted a name that basically had 2 first names, so I called him Michael Nicholas. Don't know why, I just thought it'd be really cool. So Michael Nicholas walked into my head. So I'm going to talk about Michael Nicholas first. Michael Nicholas is a gentleman from Victorian England. He is of black origin, so he was a slave. And he has a very interesting story in that he was bought out of slavery. His mother was a princess from a tribe, and she fell in love with a white man, and ended up who was her teacher, and they ended up doing slightly more extracurricular activities, shall we put it, and she fell pregnant, and he'd promised to run away with her, but unbeknownst to her, he ended up selling her. Well, he didn't sell her into slavery, but she believes he sold her into slavery. That's a whole new story that you can read about in Inner Demons. So yeah, so essentially she's led to believe her lover sold her into slavery and their unborn child. So she has to suffer the slave ships on the crossing to America. And whilst in America, she ends up dying of tuberculosis. So the son is born into slavery. Michael Nicholas is born into slavery, and on a trip to one of these sugarcane plantations, this Victorian couple, the Nicholases, are actually enthralled with him, his spunk, his personality, his drive, and they buy him, they adopt him, and he goes back to England and has a better life. So he has a lot of backstory that creates his character, but in the Soul Dominion books, you essentially meet him around 100 years later. He's suffered a loss in love. The lady he loved, Annabelle, wasn't allowed to be with him, but ended up dying tragically. So he's never really overcome that and just thrown himself into work. So his work is a time traveller. He was discovered as a key master who could resonate with time and open up portals. So in my books, it's a bit like Shadowhunters meets Doctor Who. So, but instead of travelling through a TARDIS, he uses locks and keys to travel through time. So he's that's his character. So he's a main character, but the story follows Erica and what she can do. So I'm going to now introduce Erica. Living in London, so sort of very based on my experiences, and she's from Derbyshire. So Derbyshire features in this book because I was fed up of everything being based in the south, to be honest. So I thought, why not bring in my own experiences? So she was a Derbyshire girl. She lives in a village of Bonsall, which does feature, and you see her travelling on the train from London to Derby and then getting into connecting train to Cromford. So I do feature that. I'm quite passionate about the legacy of Derbyshire, so I wanted to make sure that featured. So it does feature local places. But yes, Erica is a student of history, studying at University of London, UCL, because that's where my SOAS is based. So School of Oriental Studies, SOAS, that's where it was based. And it has the, is it the Senate Tower? That massive white building. And I loved walking through it because it's Art Deco. Love Art Deco. So yeah, so it features her studying here. She's a student like me. She was skint. So it was always a struggle maintaining cash flow and jobs and work. So it's very similar to what I was living. But she has a secret, which obviously I don't have this exciting secret, but she has a secret. She is a medium. She can speak with spirits. But in my world, contact with spirits, especially physical contact, can often leave a burn on the skin. So it's a gift that goes through the female line. So her mother has it as well. But her mother's always told her to keep it secret because her mother grew up with being told basically to keep it all secret and hidden because there was this thing chasing their family. It all becomes apparent, especially in book 2 and book 3. It explores it a lot. So it goes into great detail about the legacy and the secret of their family. So I'm not going to spoil it here. But essentially, Erica's a medium. But because she's not just a medium, she's something else, which I'm not going to spoil. But what her other self is means that she has a sensitivity to time, but she's got a greater sensitivity to time than Michael. So she opens up a massive time portal with Michael. He already has suspicions because he was casting a charm when she saw him. So he knew that she was powerful because it's a charm that people just can't see through unless you have some connection to time and to the magic that goes around with time. So he knew she was special when he met her. They form a relationship. She fancies him. He's hot. Don't blame her. So she fancies him. He is intrigued by her. He's still coming to terms with. He feels he can't love again. So at the start he puts it off, but then he manages to revisit his past love, and she basically says, "What you're playing at, you live your life." So by the end of book one, they're establishing a relationship. But yeah, so book one follows her introduction to the world. My time travelers reside and work in a dimension called limbo, and I have demons in my world, but they are known as lost souls. And in my mind, the lost souls were essentially souls that didn't have a proper religious burial, not necessarily Christian, but in whatever culture they were, they didn't have a religious burial, so their souls were not at rest. So these souls could have been in marshes, they could have been animals. So I have bloodhounds, which are animals that have not had a proper burial. I've got Shigoi, who create vampires in my world. And I have the bloodhounds can also create werewolves. They don't all create werewolves. If a soul chooses to form a bond with their victim, they become a soul parent, and that victim becomes a werewolf. So that's how it works in my world. I've also got demonic trees. In my head, the idea was if a person was died or was killed in a forest setting, didn't have a proper burial, their lost soul would go into the trees. So I've got demonic trees. Can I think of anything else? I've got lost souls that occupy marshes and basically drag the souls into the watery grave. So I've got lots of different lost souls that Erica slowly discovers as she enters this world, and she introduces it all to us. Book one also sets the setting of a wider apocalypse basically happening on the world, with lost souls building up an army unknown to the guild in Limbo, which is where the Keymasters reside, and they control time and everything and keep an eye on the lost souls. You have soul gatherers who work in Limbo as well, and they are the ones who hunt and control the souls. But unbeknown to them, stuff is seeping through, and there's more and more lost souls happening, but they don't realise that in book one. So there's side stories of people befalling lost souls and becoming, creating more lost souls. So it's a little bit dark, a little bit gritty in that respect. But yeah, so that's an introduction to Erica, guiding us into this world that is facing a lot of hardship and trouble, opening up the scenes for book 2 and 3. Soldier Million features found family. It features hidden identities. It's got a chosen one, but I'm not particularly a fan of chosen one, so I put my own slant on it in the fact that Erica is a chosen one, but she can't work without the others. Because I always think teams, it's all about team play, working together as a team. So she's a chosen one. Her power, her gifts are important, but on her own she is weak. With others she's strong. So I've got found family, hidden identity. There is a mentor trainee relationship that blossoms. There's obviously time travel. I've got snarky fairies. So my keymasters, my time travelers, are given a fairy because the keymasters do not do magic. This is where Eric is different. She can do magic. But traditional keymasters, traditional time travelers can't do magic, so they have an amulet, a periamt, that has fairy trapped inside it, a bit like the genie in the lamp. So fairies they're not the fairies that fly around with tiny wings, tiny flower fairies. They are fairies from a plane of existence, an astral plane called Utara, and they're basically feared by man on our plane of existence. So to trap them and to control them, part of their essence, which is like a glowing part, their essence is their glowing part, their soul that comes through the skin. So they have glowing eyes, glowing hair, glowing skin, quite ethereal beings. They don't have pupils, they have pupilless eyes. They're normally silver or gold in appearance. They don't have a gender, but they assign themselves a gender when they are with their masters. Because humans often struggle. So they refer themselves as they or it. So each time traveller has a fairy assigned to them. So Erica ends up getting paired with a fairy called Circe's. I really struggled with his name because Circe's has a quite a black past. He has a mark against his name in the book, so he's not recommended really as a fairy for young time traveller trainees to have. But Ashyla recommends him and says that Erica should give him a chance. Ashyla is Michael's fairy. So Circe's, he has a troubled past because essentially his last keymaster, which was years and years ago, abused him and was abusive to others, so he killed him, which put the black mark against his name. But he only did it because his keymaster was horrible and was very abusive. So he's got this black mark against his name for meting out justice, really. So he's a bit of a morally grey character. Erica gives him a chance. So naming Circe's was difficult because I wanted. The idea was it was named after one of his previous masters, and I needed a really old human who would have inspired him to have respect for humanity. And I went through, it took ages, I went through all sorts of records about, I was thinking a king, a really noble, great king, and I came across King Circe's, and I thought that would be the kind of human that would inspire this fairy to give humans a second chance. And so Circe's has named himself after this previous master. So he ends up being Erica's fairy, and I'm sidetracking because I was talking about tropes. So yeah, there's snarky fairies. There's fae, but not as you know it. There's vampires, but not as you know it. There's werewolves, but not as you know it. There's East Asian culture vibes in there as well. It's set in London and Derbyshire and Seoul, in Korea, because I love the Far East. I did Chinese at university, so I've got a thing about the Far East, and I really, really love Korea, South Korea. Anyway, so they're the tropes, key tropes. So the love triangle. It's not a love triangle like the typical ones. I'm quite good at doing like tropes, but not as you know it. So it's a love triangle, but not as you know it. So it's not like Twilight with the sort of YA love triangle. It's quite a mature love triangle. So it's not like fighting for her exactly, but it shows a progressive relationship between these three characters. So I'm now going to introduce the other key character in the love triangle, Nathaniel Lee. Right, so Nathaniel Lee. Nathaniel Lee doesn't feature much in book one. You meet him when Michael is leaving his friend's house, Christian Blake II, who is a soul gatherer. And Christian Blake II, I based him a bit on Jeeves and Worcester. How the Worcester is a little bit, how his accent is rather old, but he's like really a old chap. That sort of type of 1920s, 1930s English gentleman. But unlike Worcester, he was a little bit silly. My Christian Blake is not. So he's a very clever inventor. He is dating a werewolf, Lanita, which Michael doesn't approve of. Michael has his thing against quandoms. So in my story, werewolves and vampires are known as quandoms because they have been bitten and infected by lost souls, and so they're viewed as demonic in nature, so naturally demonic. So there's this whole theory about can they be good because they've been created by demons. So Michael Nicholas starts off the story being really anti Lanita and Nathaniel, who is a vampire. So by the end of the book, by the end of the series, he realises that that was a really old view, and he realises that there's more to them than just their demonic birth. So yes, so Nathaniel Lee is my South Korean, very hot, very morally grey vampire. He doesn't feature much in book one. You catch a glimpse of him when Michael is leaving Christian's house, and the next time you see him is in a battle right at the end of book one. And then he features very heavily in book two and book three. He has a very interesting background. I have an interest in East Asia, as I've already mentioned. Although I studied Chinese at university, I've got a massive penchant for Japanese manga. I grew up reading that and watching it, so all my friends were reading Sweet Valley High, and there I was reading Ghost of Michelle. So I had quite a different upbringing to my friends, And I was seen as very odd because at that time manga was not seen as something that people should be watching and should be reading. So I was seen as very odd. So I've got this love for East Asia. And when I was in China, I discovered the wonders of South Korea. I love K-pop. I love the fashions. I sadly have not been to Korea, but I grew up, when I was in China, I had a lot of Korean friends. So I love the food, love the culture, and learnt a little bit of the language. Had a few Korean men tried to arrange marriage with me, which was interesting. But anyway, right, moving on. So yes, so Nathaniel Lee is my Korean vampire. You don't get to know much about his story until Keys of Death, when he can jump through shadows. He manipulates shadows, so he's not a typical vampire. Not all vampires can do that. That's because of his soul parent sharing certain powers with him. He doesn't like his soul parent. His soul parent is not particularly nice to him, and he's been dormant, so he's not had any contact with his soul parent for quite a few years, and he appears in this one and bestows him even more powerful shadow wielding abilities. So he has a whole backstory that's revealed in Keys of Death, and the next series in the Soul Dominion will be following him and his a story revolving him, and a lot set in South Korea. So essentially he's a vampire. He's very morally grey. When he and Erica meet at the end of book one, there's an instant connection between them and their souls, and you don't realise the significance of it until Keys of Fate book 2 and then Keys of Death book 3. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a reason behind the connection. It's sort of, I've incorporated the myth of Chang'e, the moon goddess of Chinese myth, but I've put a massive twist on it. So, as I seem to do with a lot of tropes and things. So yes, so Chang'e and the myth is there. I have put a twist on it. I've created what I call moon-kissed beings who are connected to Chang'e, and their souls are connected to Chang'e, and that is a connection between Nathaniel Lee and Erica Shylock. But I'm not going to spoil it. But yes, he's morally grey. Some characteristics about him. Apart from that, he's a vampire. He's very vicious. He sort of attacks first and asks questions later. He's very possessive and protective about Erica, but he doesn't hold her back. He, over the years, he's about 400 years old. Over the years, he has collected the names of those people from his past who have meant something to him, and he has them tattooed as a sleeve up his arm and going around his neck. He also has bigger tattoos, so he has signatures of the names, all the names that have meant something to him. He has got a yin yang tattoo, he's got a phoenix tattoo, he's got a dragon tattoo, he's got a tattoo of a nine-tailed fox, and he has a tattoo of a hummingbird. Those are all significant, and you get to meet those characters during book 2, book 3. So I'm now going to introduce my nine-tailed fox. I've tried to make Soul Dominions as diverse as possible, so you get diversity in the characters, different skin colours, you get diversity in their sexual orientations, and I will focus on one of the couples soon. And I get diversities in the folklore, so I have got influences of East Asia in here as well. Like I've mentioned my Chang'e twist on the legend of Chang'e, and I do have a nine-tailed fox. I love nine-tailed foxes. When I was at university studying my BA in Chinese Studies, we had to study a book called Shiji, and it was basically a book all about different Chinese myths, and in one of them was a nine-tailed fox, and I thought they were fascinating. So that's probably why I created Jade. Jade Fox is my nine-tailed fox. She is as wily as they come. She has a fox form with her nine tails, and sometimes in her human form she has the tails or the ears. Her hair colour is based on her fox colour, which is white. Although she is very, very wily, and sometimes you don't know whether you can trust her. She does have a heart of gold, and that's why she's a celestial fox. So her backstory is, yes, she killed people, yes, she stole children, but then she ended up saving children, and that's why she became a celestial fox. She has no interesting backstory because she wreaked some chaos back in Shanghai, which caused the attention of the angel police force, my celestial police department, and the angel Nathaniel Nate. So that is they end up having a relationship. They sort of go from enemies to lovers over a long, many centuries. So Jade Fox is this interesting character who essentially seems to kidnap Erica, but she doesn't. She is tied into my twist on the legend of Chang'e. So she is a moonkiss being, and she helps Chang'e um, solicit her moonkiss beings and put them into the service, and she helps them get their powers with a bloodstone. Um, she's lived loads. She loves heels. She loves dressing up, hot pants, sequins, glitter, makeup, you name it, she loves it. Her and Nathaniel Lee, my vampire, Nathaniel Lee, so I've got Nate and Nathaniel. So my vampire, she and the vampire have a very close relationship because essentially she saved and helped him in his backstory when he first turned into a vampire. So she saved and helped him and gave him hope and helped Erica to help him too. But that's an all different story which you'll get to hear about. So yeah, so I've got my nine-tailed fox. She ends up having a relationship with the archangel Nate Nathaniel, who also has an odd, quaint, nice romance with Nathaniel Lee, and that you'll discover more about in Keys of Fate and Keys of Death. So yes, so I've got angels. The only angel in this series that you meet is Nate. So he and Jade Fox end up falling with one another, which causes lots of problems because she is actually the property of a Dragon Lord, One Way Long. So yes, so I've got dragons as well, and dragon riders who are from my romantasy world who've like transported to this world. So it's all big, it's all complicated. I don't know why I did it as my debut series, but yes, it was a passion project and lots of love. Let's see who else I could mention. I've made a list of key characters. So I mentioned Shyla, Circe's, Lenita and Christian. Okay, so I now need to talk about your feel. Right, so in my world of time travelers called Key Masters, they master and rule over fairies who are, without doubt, more powerful than them, but they have a weakness in that they have an essence, and you can take part of the essence and entrap it like a genie. So then the fairy is bound to the person who has that essence encased in what I've been calling a periumph in my story. And that gives the keymaster, the master, the power to rule over them and their magic. So some fairies obviously are enslaved to time travellers, and some are enslaved to the Guild of Time Travellers, Guild of Keymasters in Limbo. And they serve them and they are bound to them. They do sort of administrative type jobs. So I've got in Limbo, you've obviously got the Guild, there's a university which Erica goes to, and then there's a chapel, and then there is also a sonistry, which is based on an igloo shape, and in that they have bells, and all the bells are related to a keymaster, and also to let people know when they are travelling through time. They resonate with tinkle, and these sonologists wear these old and like Egyptian funnel things that help them hear and pick out which bell is ringing, so they can write in their logias, their logbooks, about who's travelling when. And there's also a set of soul bells telling the sonologists when lost souls are breaking through and causing chaos and how dangerous it is. In this department, the sonistry, there is a fairy working on the desk, working in the team called Feel. So he appears as a male, and he has a relationship with a lecturer from a university called Anatole. and it's a forbidden romance. They were together sort of legitimately, and they were going to get married, but Anatole did something very stupid, which you can read about in Inner Demons, and he lost that opportunity to marry Yafil. So they have this forbidden romance going on. I love them. They're a lovely couple. I love them so much. But yes, so that's a representation of some other sexual orientations in the book. I also have Jocelyn, who is a friend of Erica's, who is bi, preferring females, and she ends up having a relationship with Imanafi, who has recently come out as a lesbian. So I've got representation of different sexual orientation relationships, which is super cute. Who else can I talk about? Oh, I should talk about Lizzie. So Lizzie is a friend of Erica's. They've been childhood friends since Lizzie moved from Ireland to Derbyshire, where their family took over the local tea shop in Bonsall. They've been friends since primary school. They're really close, but Erica does hide her secret from Lizzie. Lizzie is very forthright. She's very open with her opinions. She's a redhead, so and she has a massive crush on Erica's middle brother Guy. Um, so they feature. There is a twist to Lizzie and Guy's relationship because they do end up. Guy also likes Lizzie, and things do progress. But there's a twist in their relationship, which I'm not going to spoil. Happens at the end of book 1. So that impacts a lot on Erica's character growth in book 2, and the growth of Guy, her brother. So although Guy cannot see spirits like his sister Erica, he also has an affinity to lost souls, and he can sense them, and yeah, he goes on this bit of a vendetta against them. So he starts to feature quite more in book 2, Keys of Fate, and book 3, Keys of Death. They also have an older brother, so there's 3 siblings in the Shylock family. Cole is the oldest. He's like this really typical older brother. He looks after everybody. And then Guy's the middle brother, and then Erica's the younger sister. There's a twist with relationship between Erica and Guy, which impacts on why Guy has an affinity with lost souls. I'm not going to go into that because that would be giving it away. You learn about that in Keys of Fate. But yes, so the family is important in this as well. Not just the found family, but Erica's family as a whole. They've got secrets. Her mum's been hiding secrets. There's a grimoire they discover with loads of untold spells and things about their old family. So it's a massive series with loads of layers, and there are side characters, but they're not just 2D cut out side characters that you find in some books. They all have a story, or have a backstory, or have a plot going on, likes and dislikes, everything. So yes, so that's essentially the key people in. Oh, I've not mentioned Amberson. Let me introduce you to my Fae. Can't believe I almost forgot Amberson. So in my world, I've got Fae, but they're not, as you know them. The Fae in my Soul Dominion series are essentially the offspring of when a fairy has had a relationship with a human. It does happen, obviously, with Euphil and Anatole, their relationship. Obviously, it can happen between males and females, and males and males, and females and females. So, yeah, so Amberson is the offspring of a fairy and a human. American keymaster, so he's from America. His name was Amberson Solway. I got the surname from the side of a lorry, as you do. Trying to find a name that went with Amberson. I love the name Amberson. So yeah, so he's my big burly black fae. He is able to use magic because he's half fairy. So he cloaks his fairy characteristics of glowing white hair and glowing eyes. He has a special fae hound called Lily. It's massive. I was trying to think of it. Thought it'd be cute to have a really big burly dog with a really cute, dainty name. So yeah, so he's got his dog, and he is a soul gatherer. So he is friends with the other soul gatherers, Christian, Lenita, and Nathaniel. They're the key ones that feature in this book. So he is very loyal. He's like the big father figure in their little group. He's a little bit old-fashioned, so he carries around the old-fashioned alert system instead of using the alert system on phones that Lenita and Nathaniel use. But yeah, he knows Nathaniel's backstory. He knows Lenita's backstory. He's there for them, rooting for them, and is very understanding of them. And he's just a lovable character. He's great. So yes, I think that's all my key characters now. Not mentioned Mark. Mark's another friend of Erica's. He doesn't feature much. He's going to feature a little bit more in the next series whenever I write that. But yes, so that is Soul Dominion. It's a big world. There's a lot going on. The first 3 books in the series focus on them discovering a growing army of lost souls and them working as a misfit found family to bring it all down. It's a wild ride. There are twists in it that you won't expect. I'm one of those people who likes to really cause chaos for the characters. Like, things are getting boring, it's like, oh, let's cause some more chaos and see how they cope and get out of that one. So yes, it's a wild ride. If you love fantasies where there's a host of characters to fall in love with, each is interesting and as significant as the next, even if the story isn't following them as main characters, then you're going to love it. It's my first series, so it's my passion project as well. So yes, that is Soul Dominion. I hope that was okay, Dot. Turned out to be quite a chunky video. But yeah, I hope that helps give you an idea of the books and whether it's something you'd be interested in looking at. And it's currently available in KU. I will be moving it out as of April. So it'll be published more widely on different bookstores like Kobo and Apple and Google Play Books and libraries as well. So it is going to be moving out to KU. So if you do subscribe to KU, grab it whilst you can so it can stay in your library for when you want to read it. But yeah, so that's my Soul Dominion series, and I hope you give it a chance. I really do.